Fuel is a band that was synonymous with rock radio in the late 90s and early 2000s, with several massive hits including Shimmer and Hemorrhage in My Hands. Today, we're going to talk about Fuel and whatever happened to the group and their turbulent history. Fuel would actually have southern roots, hailing from Kenton, Tennessee, as guitarist Carl Bell and bassist Jeff Ambercrombie would grow up together in the small town and form a band while they were still juniors in high school in 1989. The sleepy town of Kenton, which at the time only had 2 traffic lights, served as the perfect playground for the budding musicians. Bell would tell the LA Times, "It's easy to sit in front of a TV and let it control your mind. I would have to find other ways to keep myself entertained. I would pick up a guitar or I would listen to music. My brothers read a lot." Bell, who was a little bit older than Abercrombie, would graduate from high school and meet a drummer named Jody Abbott in college. The pair would play in a variety of bands until 1992. That was the year that Abercrombie saw a singer named Brett Scallions performing in a bar in Jackson, Tennessee, and was so enthralled with the vocalist's performance that he asked him to join his band. Scallions was heavily influenced by the likes of Elvis, the blues, country music, and metal, and by 1993, the group Fuel would be born. The following year, they would release an 8-song cassette titled Porcelain, which would be sold at both shows and in record stores, and it sold reasonably well, moving about 10,000 units. By 1995, the band moved from western Tennessee to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, since it was closer to the major metropolitan hubs of New York City and Washington, D.C., as well as Philadelphia. The band took a very DIY approach to marketing the band, with Bell telling MTV, "We were a do-it-yourself kind of band for a long time. We'd reinvest whatever money we'd make performing back into studio equipment and stuff to take on the road with us. We recorded our first EP ourselves, produced it ourselves, after hours before sound checks." On top of that, the band even divvied up the duties amongst its members, with him going on to say, "I was doing the recording and writing, Brett was calling the radio and doing promotion, our drummer was taking our music to retailers, and our bass player was doing some of the merchandising," he'd recall. And the group did have some success early on, with Scallions revealing to the Morning Call newspaper how one radio station in Harrisburg was already playing the song Shimmer on the radio before they even signed a record deal. But it was still a grind for the group, as Bell was splitting his time between school and the band, opting to go back to school full-time in an effort to become an English teacher. But then their fortunes changed, as he would recall to the LA Times. "I decided to get myself another parachute so I could maybe land on my feet somewhere. I was back in school actually up until a month before we got signed to 550 Music. I still had music in my mind, but at the same time I was thinking, let's look at reality here." The band soon generated major buzz from labels ahead of their signing, with one gig in New York City being attended by reps of 25 different record labels. They would eventually sign with Sony. The group also underwent a lineup change ahead of recording their first album, with drummer Kevin Miller joining the group in December of 1997. Part of the band's success up until this point, and even after they signed to a major label, had to do with how they treated their fans. Several interviews and articles I came across consistently quoted Brett Scallions' approach to the music industry, with him saying, and I quote, "Fuel was more interested in making friends than fans." By late 1997 and 1998, the band retreated to a horse farm in Massachusetts, which also served as a recording studio, the same place where greats like Aerosmith and the Rolling Stones also spent time. These sessions would result in the band's debut album, Sunburn, which would produce 4 hit singles that all charted in the top 40 on the alternative rock charts. Shimmer was by far the biggest hit from the record, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart, right behind the Goo Goo Dolls' Iris. Ironically, the success of the song would come full circle, as Bell wrote the song while sitting on a couch in his apartment in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He would see the song's video on MTV, sitting on the same couch he wrote the song, telling the network, "I saw it go full circle. You realize that the song is no longer confined to this room, it's out there in the world doing its thing." Sunburn would ride the wave of popularity that post-grunge bands were seeing at the time, resulting in it going platinum. Bell would tell MTV, another key to the band's success, recalling modern rock alternative radio stations spearheaded the whole thing, and it did well on some classic rock stations as well. During a break on the tour to support Sunburn, the band would rent a house in the Poconos Mountains during the middle of winter. The band locked themselves in the house's basement and wrote and rehearsed what would be their follow-up album, titled Something Like Human. The album would be recorded in New York City in an effort to capture the aggressiveness of the Big Apple. And Something Like Human would also feature the band's most successful hit of their career with Hemorrhage in My Hands. The track would prove to be one of the most emotionally charged songs in the band's catalog. Something Like Human would prove to be the band's biggest record of their career, going double platinum, thanks to Hemorrhage, which peaked at number 1 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart, where it spent 12 weeks. The song also had crossover appeal, appearing at number 30 on the Hot 100 charts. The album would once again produce a total of 4 singles that would peak in the top 40 on the US alternative rock charts. Guitarist and principal songwriter Carl Bell seemed more at peace with how the group's sophomore effort compared to their first album, telling MTV, "I don't think we captured the band like we should have on the first record. The first record was more of a testimonial of where I was at the time. We were struggling as a band trying to get signed. I was going, oh no, this music thing is a bunch of crap, I'm never going to make it. The new album will be a documentation of where I am now. I'm not influenced as much by outside things as inside experiences." The band's music was also pretty popular for Hollywood, as their songs would appear in TV shows including Prison Break, and movies like Daredevil and Scream 3, and even WWE pay-per-view events. The band would take some time off ahead of releasing their third album due to health concerns and legal problems. Scallions had to have surgery to repair a deviated septum he suffered after an onstage collision with guitarist Carl Bell. Released in 2003, Natural Selection would see the band work with Soundgarden and Hole producer Michael Beinhorn. Bell would reveal the inspiration behind the album's name, saying, "It has connotations back to the survival of the fittest and all those cliches, but it's true a lot of the bands that were around when we started are gone now, and this industry is so here today, gone later that day, that it's a tough business to stick around in." The album itself would prove to be less commercially successful, not even going gold, but still producing a hit in the single Falls on Me, which peaked in the top 10 on the US mainstream rock charts. It would be the last album to feature drummer Kevin Miller and vocalist Brett Scallions. The band underwent some turbulent times between 2004 and 2006, with Miller first leaving the band in 2004 after feuding in the public. It appeared his departure was due to business disputes over royalties. According to the Morning Call newspaper, Miller was supposed to receive 25% of all profits from the band's tour, in addition to 6.5% of all publishing royalties. Ahead of the band releasing their third album for Sony, the label offered the group a $3 million advance, half of which would go to recording the album, with the remaining money being split amongst its members. Miller claimed he was owed around $350,000, but only received $212,000. He would end up filing a lawsuit against his former bandmates. In 2005, the band stirred a bit of controversy when, during President George W. Bush's second inauguration, the band performed at the inauguration bash, where Scallion used some colorful language. The following year, Scallions would leave the group over creative differences, with the frontman telling Lancaster Online in 2019, "I've always been the type of person with the mentality of if you're not happy doing what you're doing, then why are you doing it? So I needed to clear my head and explore new things. I just wasn't having a good time." It would turn out it would be musical differences with principal songwriter Carl Bell that led to him leaving the group. Bell would have his own version of events, telling the Traverse City Eagles-Times, and I quote, "Brett just called up one day and said he had some issues that he wanted to deal with, and he basically bowed out. We were like, hey, that sucks and we'd rather that you not do that, but if that's what you want to do, then that's what you got to do." The band's former drummer allegedly also stated that since Scallion's surgery in the early 2000s, he had been lip-syncing during live performances since he was having issues with his voice, and that this may have led to his departure as well. Even though Scallions wasn't a member of the band anymore, Fuel had enough material to record their fourth album, Angels and Devils, with new vocalist Torrin Green, which they would put out in 2007. It was reported around this time that the band wanted to hire Chris Daughtry of American Idol fame to join the group after seeing him perform one of their songs on live TV, but he declined, instead forming his own band. Angels and Demons was the group's last record for Sony, and it was the worst performing of the 4 they released for the label. While on hiatus, Brett Scallions played with other groups, including the original members of The Doors, Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger, and 2 years later, in 2009, Scallions once again found himself working with former bandmate bassist Jeff Ambercrombie in an offshoot of his old band called Refueled. The partnership, though, only lasted a year. Strangely enough, in 2010, it was announced that both Carl Bell and Jeff Ambercrombie would be leaving Fuel, but the same day it was announced that Scallions would be rejoining the band. So in one day, 2 of the 3 founding members quit, while Scallions suddenly returned to keep the band going. The new lineup started recording together and released 2013's Puppet Strings, the first Fuel album to feature Scallions in a decade. The band still kept making music together, they toured around the world, and celebrated the 20th anniversary of Sunburn. Fuel would continue to undergo numerous lineup changes, with Scallions being the only original member. While on hiatus from Fuel, Bell would release a solo country album called Tennessee Fuel, and Bell would reestablish himself as a country artist. He'd always been a sole songwriter of the lyrics and the music in the band, so coming up with his own material wasn't exactly a stretch. In October of 2020, Scallions announced on Facebook that he was officially leaving Fuel after creative differences with his bandmates. In 2021, Bell would reform Fuel with original drummer Kevin Miller and a new singer in John Corsail. In October of this year, Fuel will be releasing their latest album, Anomaly, with the first single, Hard, being released in July of this year. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.